All right, this is Yeshua's King Ministries World News. Um, I wanted to bring this up. Saw this this morning at on a bunch of different news sites. It was the October 3rd. Reuters. The FBI has cut ties with the Southern Poverty Law Center, a civil rights organization that tracks extremist groups. That conservatives criticized the nonprofit for including slain right-wing activist Charlie Kirk's organization on its list of hate groups. In a post on X in February, I'm going to tell you about what really is going on here, but just let me give you some facts. Okay. FBI Director Kash Patel accused the SPLC of turning into a partisan smear machine rather than a civil rights advocate and said his agency has severed all ties. Now, this may be a front, who knows, of what Patel's doing because of the things that he's done with the, all the Epstein list and all that we've been able to see and look at, if you know what I mean. It says their so-called hate map has been used to defame mainstream Americans and even inspired violence, Patel said, without offering details. That's absolutely true. The FBI did not immediately respond to a request for more details, including Patel's specific allegations, but the Justice Department official who was unauthorized to speak on the record said the working relationship had already been winding down for months. SPLC's hate map lists nearly 1,400 groups, including Kirk's Arizona-based Turning Point USA. The SPLC describes the Conservatives Youth Organization as an anti-government group. And without any they won't do any details or nothing. They just say that's what you are. For decades, we have shared data and analysis with the public to protect civil rights and hold extremists accountable. That's what SPLC said, but that's not what they do. The SPLC said in a statement after Patel's announcement, we remain committed to exposing hate and extremism as we work to equip communities with knowledge and defend the rights and safety of marginalized people. Um, okay. Yeah, Patel's decision, um, it says here, came 2 days after he said the FBI would end the partnership with the Anti-Defamation League, a Jewish organization that tracks anti-Semitism. The ADL also included a turning point in a glossary of extremism and hate before deleting the entire list from its website after criticism from billionaire Elon Musk and other conservatives. Um, Kirk was assassinated last month during an appearance in a Utah college campus, deepening fears about rising U.S. political violence and prompting Trump to escalate his rhetoric against what he calls the radical left. The 22-year-old suspect in the case, Tyler Robinson, told a roommate he acted due to Kirk's hatred, prosecutors have said. Authorities have said they believe Robinson acted alone. I personally don't believe that, but what does my opinion matter? On a post on X on Thursday, noting Kirk was briefly mentioned in an SPLC newsletter, the day before his death, Musk accused SPLC of being guilty of inciting Kirk's murder without providing evidence. That's the danger. Okay, so what they do is what that group does is they put everybody on a specific list. Um, and they do it if you say, in other words, if you're, especially if you bring up the Constitution in your defense. If you bring that up, you have messed with their whole ideology. I'm going to show you in a minute. Okay. Um, this is something I'm gonna skip around a little bit. This is an affidavit of 413, 2014 that I wrote, which is what happened to me in 2010. And this is still ongoing, this case. I guess they just say it's an open case. They don't say there's any warrant out for me. They just say there's an open case. Um, this is what they said the guy did. This is what the officer did. Martin H. Affiant states that on December 18th, 2010, Martin H. He's a state trooper, badge number 356, assignment post 12, stopped the Affiant travel rural route 2 by multiple state troopers with guns drawn and forced the affiant out of the vehicle. Martin H. stated that the affiant was under arrest for 2 traffic warrants from Jefferson County. The affiant states the affiant was supposedly being served with 2 previous traffic warrants from an exiled U.S. state called Commonwealth Kentucky and sometimes known as the Commonwealth. The affiant was not stopped for any traffic violations being committed at the time. The affiant states Martin H. rushed the affiant to the local detention center, acting paranoid and driving erratically. He had cuffs on me, threw me in a car, and then just shooting down the road. I don't know what he was afraid of. I don't care. But man, that man was definitely paranoid. The affiant states the affiant was a state trooper commercial transport. I used to call things different back then. The affiant asked Martin H. what was this all about and why at least 15 state troopers were involved in serving 2 traffic warrants. The affiant states that Martin H. held up affiant's credentials. Listen to this carefully. There's more important things here than anybody would ever guess. The affiant states that Martin H. held up the affiant's credentials and said that the affiant was a member of a domestic terrorist group called Sovereign Citizens that killed 2 state troopers in Arkansas, and that Martin H. was protecting his family by arresting the affiant. See, he wasn't arresting me over 2 warrants. He was arresting me over what SPLC said I was. Listen to that very carefully. It was SPLC, some civil rights lawyer piece of crap, and I know all about him. He was talking about them, and it was really weird and odd. I didn't really understand it at the time. Okay. The affiant states that recently attended a seminar that he had recently, Martin H. said that he had recently attended a seminar with Southern Poverty Law Center on sovereign citizen domestic terrorists. The affiant states Martin H. mentioned Southern Poverty Law Center as being the source of Martin H. accusations of the affiant being a sovereign citizen domestic terrorist. The affiant states that affiant has never met Martin H. before that day and still does not know his family nor care to know his family, him or his family. I could care a lot less about the guy now. I don't really. I mean, it's just whatever. The affiant states the affiant was never involved in any conspiracy to commit murder, nor knew the individuals that were involved in the Arkansas traffic stop that involved the murder of 2 Arkansas state troopers. The affiant states that an hour after the affiant was in Shelby County Detention Center, Martin H. and Detective Wolf pulled the affiant into a small room. Detective Greg Wolf, hereinafter Greg, said that he heard rumors about the affiant killing an ex-husband affiant's wife that's committed suicide. Let me say that again. It was rumors that affiant was killing an ex-husband affiant's wife that committed suicide. He was ruled a suicide, and then they said I had killed him, and absolutely not true. None of it was true. The affiant was struggling with being accused of murdering someone, even though victim's death was ruled a suicide. The affiant states that Greg said that he wanted to set up a security network with the affiant so the affiant being taken to jail would not happen again based on rumors. Well, then you just told me that there was no reason for you to arrest me in the first place, and that the reason why I was there was based on rumors, and that is SPLC. They base everything they have on rumors. That's it. They listen to what the person has to say or whatever, and then just make it up as they go. They do things to fit their narrative. This scares a lot of people. I can't remember the guy's name as far as in charge of SPLC, but they scare a lot of people into giving them donations. That's how they make money. They haven't done anything for Poverty Law Center, for poverty, people in poverty. They haven't done anything for anybody. All they do is collect money, and he makes a lot of money. Okay. Then ADL came up, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Affiant states that Greg thought he had thought the Affiant was a good guy and does not understand why there are so many rumors, but never disclosed the source of the rumors. The Affiant said that the Affiant would be glad to network with Greg and the troopers with the U.S. Department of State consent. I wanted to see what they were doing. I wanted to check out what was really going on. And I think they wanted me to be some kind of well, let me keep going. Affiant's understanding that the network would involve Affiant taking a violent groups in the area as a third party neutral and finding resolutions to the problems that state troopers have with so-called domestic terrorist groups, even though the Affiant was not a part of any domestic terrorist group. That's what I thought they want. Basically, they just wanted to snitch. And I was, no, I'm not involved in that. I won't be snitching on people and all that kind of stuff. That's stupid. And not because they get stitches. It's just not my type. I don't want to get involved in that war because back then that was the height of Obama and uh, Clinton's power. That was the height of their power, and I've been watching her go down ever since. Um, that's the height of her power, and I didn't like either one of them. I didn't like what they were doing. They were going on for with communism and everything else. I didn't want nothing to do with that. He said, Affiant States Greg said he would do what he could about getting the Affiant released in a couple of hours and would meet with the Affiant the next week along with an FBI agent. Greg told the prison employees that the Affiant would be cooperative, but the Affiant did not know until later what that meant. So the Affiant states after being held under a $5,000 bond for 3 days over a driver's license. This was over a driver's license. The affiant was forced under duress to threat to plead guilty to anything that was charged so the affiant would be released. The affiant was in fear for the affiant's life and did not know at the time why that fear was being felt by the affiant. The affiant states that even after the affiant was cooperative and trying to be cooperative over the next couple of months, the affiant was at least 7 to 10 miles away from any city services. I couldn't go anywhere, guys. I couldn't do anything. I went out of business, everything. I just couldn't do anything. I was, this is what they did. They sentenced me in Shelby County. This was Shelby County. I didn't have anything there. They sentenced me there for not having driving without a driver's license, and then uh, charged me or sentenced me based on me pleading guilty to the two other charges in Louisville. I didn't know this at the time. I was very confused as to what was going on. I know a whole lot more now than I did then. So they come back and they wouldn't give the $5,000 back until I pled guilty to the other two charges. Then when I did, I didn't understand why the judge was backdating everything. So what they did was is they had me plead to a to as if the time was back when the other two tickets were issued. So it was just all it was. One was speeding, the other one was driving without a license. That's all I've ever done. And I've had a warrant out for me since 1996, just over traffic. And that's it. It's 2025. 2025. I have had a warrant out for me for, well, let's look at it. 95 to 2005, that's 10 years. 2005 to 2015, that's 20 years. 2015 to 25, that's 10 years. That's 30 years total. It's hard to believe. I've had a warrant for about 30 years. And you would think after a while that they would just, whatever, just drop it and go. I don't even live in the same state anymore. And no, they won't let that go. And it's really weird why they won't do it. I think the main thing was to get me to shut up or something. I don't know what it was because I knew that uh, the local car dealership was a drug. They would sell drugs and they would bring them down to Miami and all that. But my word didn't mean anything. It didn't matter. So after being held under $5,000 bond over a driver's license, affiant was forced under duress to threat to plead guilty to anything. Okay. The affiant states that even after the affiant was cooperative, trying to be cooperative. Okay, there we go. Okay, affiant was without the ability to work, without the ability to travel, without assistance. The affiant's home was surrounded by at least 20 sheriffs, 20 state troopers, etc. on 4/18, 2011. The affiant was released within a couple of hours under another bond. Now, this was the weird part. The affiant read on the citation that the affiant was being charged with a highway work zone safety fine. In other words, I had gone through a work zone when I was sitting at home. At the same time, the affiant was at home being surrounded by at least 20 local and state police and sheriffs. And I walked out there, whatever. And it basically, he's dangerous. He's this, he's that. Why do you say that? It's because, I know SPLC, their testimony. So I'm gonna explain this to you here in a minute. This was affiant stated on around March 19th, 2011. Affiant spoke to Madeline Bailey, a probation officer on the local case at the time, number 10T, blah, blah, blah. The affiant spoke with Madeline Bailey about the affiant's status at the time. Madeline Bailey stated that the Commonwealth of Kentucky did not have jurisdiction to keep the affiant on probation. Madeline Bailey stated that she would call the prosecuting attorney, Art McGibbon, through her manager and let Hart know that the new evidence that would exonerate the affiant of all wrongdoing. The affiant called the next day and was unable to speak to Madeline Bailey directly, although an assistant stated that Hart stated that the case was out of the probation officer's hands. Really? The affiant states that the lady that the affiant was speaking to was acting very fearful. I mean, y'all know when somebody acts really scared, you can feel like cold, like it's like a cold wind just walked through. That's what it felt like. So I said, all right. Affiant gave plenty of time for Hart to present the new evidence on his own. The phone call can be proven with phone records by and between the two offices. The affiant believes the new evidence is with the knowledge of Linda Armstrong. That was the judge. Hart McGibbon and Martin H. and altogether conspired to suppress new evidence. The affiant 4/13/2014 is still in fear for the affiant's life. Affiant believes that the profile of the affiant is that of a sovereign citizen. Profile of the affiant is that of a sovereign citizen domestic terrorist, where there is no evidence to prove that profile. See, in other words, if you have been, this is, I'll get to it in a minute. I'm sorry. Affiant has had to avoid the public in fear of being murdered for 2 years and 9 months. Affiant believes that the bench warrant is in existence to hide the true intent of these three people, Lynn Armstrong, Hart McGibbon, and Martin H. Affiant accuses Lynn Armstrong and Hart with attempted murder and knowingly and willingly intentionally conspire to commit murder against the affiant. Okay. This went out again with somebody else just a little while ago, I think about 2 weeks ago. If anybody ever gets messed with and called a sovereign citizen, we just put out uh, these affidavits here. And usually nothing happens. They all just freak out. Nothing happened with this other one either. It was weird. Why they just don't say anything. It gets filed and that's it. Um, it says here, affiant believes that the owners of Southern Poverty Law Center and its political agenda, the three people, Linda, Hart, and Martin, are relying on information provided by the Southern Poverty Law Center, along with the Department of Homeland Security, to hide the intent to commit murder and conspiring to commit murder and suppress evidence that would exonerate the affiant. I would have done it. I would have gotten away, no problem. Everything was cool, no problem. The affiant states that from December 18, 2010, from July through July 2011, affiant was harassed by constantly being followed by various Shelby County deputies while the affiant was a passenger. The have present uh, presently hear reports of various people in Shelby County that Hart is still looking for the affiant even after 2 years and 9 months. This was back in 2010. This is still going on in 2025. I've been harassed and attacked by government for years. Years. It doesn't go away. Because of who? Southern Poverty Law Center. This is affiant believes that Hart is worried that the affiant will prove that evidence, and it's only some kind of violation. I can't remember what it was. They when they hide evidence, it's some kind of violation. Let me go look it up. They call it a Brady violation. If they get too many of them, they get fired and all that stuff. This wasn't really even that big of a deal. There was no reason to hold on to this the way they did. But back then was when SPLC started this crap, this whole sovereign citizen thing. And they went around and scared the crap out of a bunch of cops all around the country. And I know how they did it. And they went to a seminar 2, 3 weeks. This guy started looking at me for some reason. I don't even know who he is. And and then he told me, he says, well, then I looked your name up and saw you had warrants, so I decided to come after you. Oh, smart, Martin. You're a real smart guy. Back then, he was really stupid. Now, I seen him. Uh, I I saw him on TV once, and he don't look happy. He don't look happy at all. Boy has not been happy since. He looks very depressed all the time. He can't enjoy his job. It's not when you screw somebody over like that. That's not right. He ruined my life, ruined any kind of job I had, everything. If it was such a huge problem that I didn't have a driver's license and registration at the time, talk to me. That's all you got to do. They didn't do that. It was not a, it was horrible. Um, the whole thing it was unbelievable. All right. So let's go back to this just one more time. Affiant believes Hart is worried. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Affiant hereby withdraws any and all pleadings in international incident. I withdrew everything in that case on the local 10T 10208 case. I just didn't have anything to do with it. Affiant states the affiant has no intention of returning to Shelby County due to fear of losing life and limb through the sheriff's office under direct control of Hart McGibbon. He was yelled at by a bunch of people of using so much money to come after me. Um, I wasn't being violent. I wasn't nothing, but it doesn't really matter with these guys. Um, a communist is a communist, and a communist, they have um, a low self-esteem. It's really bad. And so they overreact to a lot of things. Now, this is what I think that they've been doing. Here was the best part. Affiant believes that all Shelby County office holders have been turned into political assassins against the Affiant by Southern Poverty Law Center and Homeland Security, although that fact does not excuse the actions and intentions of Linda Armstrong, Hart McGibbon, and Martin H. I've got a couple of witnesses on this case. I've got the ticket of it, and it's a $500 ticket. And what was it? Office of the Registrar. Okay. All right, that was it. Okay. So, once again, I'll start over. This is what I believe they do. SPLC and ADL, Anti-Defamation League, they offer official profiles to FBI, and SPLC does the same thing. They hand them to the FBI. The reason why that is because the information that they come up with, number one, does not have to be accurate, and it's just given. Okay. It's just given to them. If they give it to them, none of their officers have to come up with it themselves. And it's done in such a way where they can bypass any constitutional protection. That's what they do. This is why the police are, if you watch a lot of these videos on YouTube, they're figuring out, uh-oh, this ain't working because they're getting sued left and right in the last, I'd say 2 or 3 years. It's really been changing for civil rights lawyers because civil rights lawyers are saying, no, there's good money in this. They've been settling for anywhere from 87,000 to $1 million too for just basic stuff. So good money. So that's what they're going for. So they do an official profile to get around the constitutional protections, to be secure in your papers, right? Secure in your papers, to be the ability to assemble. Well, they went to a group, and if they went to a group, then they must be sovereign citizens. Then put them on the hate map. Put them on the hate map. Then scare the crap out of their. It works both ways. They scare the crap out of their constituents, the people that they give to them. It's SPLC. It's horrible what they do. Okay, the guy that was a horde that started this is a co-founder of SPLC's former chief trial counsel is Morris Dees. Joseph Levine, Levine Jr., co-founder of the SPLC, and he got fired. Morris Dees got fired in 2019 for I can't remember. It's all just uh, sexual harassment and whatever else it was. Um, he's the one that pulled in millions of dollars for ruining people's lives, and everybody would start going after them, right? Some won, some lost for saying, "Hey, you put this stuff on my profile," and it stuck, man. It went with the local cops. The local cops would take that information and say, "Oh, well, we were informed of this. Well, he fits this profile of a sovereign citizen." That's if you start defending yourself. And they did this a lot. There's a lot of people sitting in jail because they try to defend themselves. Okay. And it was sick. The truth about Morse D's and the SPLC. Basically, what they would do is they were in with the FBI. So if they're in with the FBI, the IRS never bothered them. They never gave any of their money away. They just kept it 200 or 300 million a year and just played around. A typical um, scam being put on by a couple of dudes. One of them, Junior 1971, Joseph Levine, I think he was involved, or um, their hero was a guy that was found to bomb the federal buildings in the 60s. I remember looking that up when I got real deep into it with the S with what do you call it? Uh, the T-Row show. That's when I did that. But just letting you know that this is how close they're in. And I think it wouldn't have looked bad if they would have had him. Um, if Charlie Kirk um, hadn't have died and was not on their list, they probably would have kept it going. But since it was on his list or their list as a hate group, they went ahead and said, "All right, guys, we're done. We'll see you later." So this is what they do with these groups. They do it to bypass any due process. They do it to bypass anything, any protection that you have. They do it to smear you, as a smear campaign, to so that the case is easy and they can put anybody they want in jail. That's what they did. So to recap, so everybody gets what's going on. This is the gist of this deal on Southern Poverty Law Center. And you go look around. This organization has been horrid to people. They absolutely ruined my life. I can't get anywhere. I'm listed as some kind of domestic terrorist, yet I was never convicted of being one. I've never been listed. I've never been convicted. They leave that in their own private files. They don't ever bring that up. They just don't give you any constitutional rights or anything like that. They won't do it. It's like when the hospital um will give you aid and comfort, all this kind of stuff. They'll work on you, but they'll treat you like crap. Is because you're on drugs. They won't tell anybody that that's the reason, but that's the reason. So they leave it amongst themselves. Hey man, he does drugs or she does drugs. Oh well, I'll just do the bare minimum that I have to. That's how they operate. And SPLC is the same way. So this is what I'm saying. You have got to stop that profile immediately. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that your life is going to be a living hell. I'm going to tell you why. Every time you get pulled over, at least 15 cops will show up, guns drawn, and start giving you the treatment I like to call it. It's roll down the window, keep your hands on the wheel. Roll down the window, keep your hands on the wheel. If you don't keep your hands on the wheel, we're going to shoot you. Now roll down the window. So you have to go to your some kind of remote control to your window. See what I'm saying? That's what they do. They're going to shoot you one way or another. And this is how they use cops to assassinate. And these are people, I was speaking out against communism. I was speaking out against all this stuff way ahead of time, way ahead of SPLC. And guess who started this group? Well, the nice Democrats, the lefties. Then the FBI stopped using them, and then they came back and used them again, the DOJ. The DOJ took them in. And this is how they got information and poop on people. And that's the way it is. So this has been my experience in America. It's been wonderful. It's a lovely experience in America. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell Morris Seligman Dees Jr. and his co-founder, I'm going to forgive these men. Joseph Levine Jr., co-founder of SPLC. They've ruined my life in one way. Okay. They did long time ago. And they did it even today. I still have to lay low, all that kind of stuff. But I would not have found Yeshua if it wasn't for these guys keeping that pressure on me. For all the scumbags, because I know Patel, the reason why he's not telling anybody why he's getting rid of SPLC is because um, what they're doing is illegal. I know that's why, but I'm forgiving them. You guys have got what you come what what's coming to you. We know what you did was a scam, and you did it for years, and you ruined a lot of people's lives. But you see, I'm not that guy anymore. The guy that you went after is dead. I would say that to any court, anywhere. He's dead. Literally, he died. And inside, I have nothing. I am stay alive by the set apart spirit. That's what keeps me alive. Because I asked one time, what's keeping me alive? And Yeshua said, I sustain you. And the set apart spirit is within you and it keeps you alive. I keep telling people they can't get into heaven without dying. And I'm talking about internally, where you change completely. But, you know, you don't have to believe me. It's fine. You'll feel better. You'll leave and and all of a sudden, I'm gone and everything will be fine. You're going to heaven. You don't have to. But if you really want to do it right, get salvation, listen to what I'm telling you. There's only one way, and that's it. But yeah, I forgive these guys. They um, what they do is unbelievable. If how much they have ruined this world that we live in. You know, um, Morris Dees is going to have he's got a lot of problems, and he's going to pay for those problems. But it's going to be a forever payment. It's not going to be you know just a small payment. When he dies, he'll figure it out. He will. So they use these organizations, and you'll find many, many others, especially when you start saying civil rights organizations. They use them to gather information about people, and it would be information that they gathered. They can't come up. They can't come up with that information or give any kind of political uh, uh, information about somebody and use it in court. It has to come from a third person. It has to be reported to you. And they don't want anybody to know what they're doing, so they don't tell anybody what's happening. And you're just getting screwed over left and right, can't figure it out. That's the way it is. I'm sorry to say it's the way it is, but it is. It's the way it is. I'm really sorry to hear this, that this is how they are. So thanks for listening. I just wanted to let people know of why and how dirty these organizations are. Um, and I forgive them. It's all right. I I'm getting older now, so I don't have time for all this crap. And playing around and all this. Uh, you know, I want a life. Yeah, you took it. It's all gone. My life is gone, and I gave that up to Yeshua. Gave it up to him. But it's too late now for any kind of what they call restitution or anything like that. You're not going to get anywhere. Um, it's just the way it is. So sorry to hear it. But anyway, that's it. And thanks for listening. I do appreciate your time. See you next time.